Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another 30-minute Thursday, and we're delighted to have all of you join with us today. I have with me Seth Morris, who's our advisor in our firm. Welcome, Seth.
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad to be here with you today.
Well, this is another exciting time with another exciting topic. And by the way, for those of you who are our viewers today, we have kind of made a decision that we're going to try to shorten our 30-minute Thursdays to maybe even half that amount of time. You'll be the judge of how well this works out. So give us some feedback when this is all done.
Yeah, we're going to try and shorten it up. Please, though, if you have questions or comments, feel free to chime in and we'll get to them as we can, even in our limited amount of time.
Seth, tell us about how all the functions work so if someone's new on here, they can learn how to do it.
So if memory serves me, I believe if you're watching on Facebook, you can just comment below and we'll be able to see that. If you're watching through YouTube, I believe you have to be logged into a YouTube account for us to be able to see the comments. So that might be right, might be wrong, but that's what I remember from when we looked it up last. And then today, so as many of you know, our topic is, should I pay off my mortgage or invest for retirement? Which I think is a question a lot of us have, right, Mike?
We get it all the time. People come to us all the time, Seth, and saying, I have this lump sum amount of money and I'm wondering, should I pay off my mortgage or I'm getting a new loan? What should I do? So maybe in a short amount of time, we can talk about some of those things.
Yeah, let's get started.
And of course, for those of you who don't know, we do have a raffle at the end. So stick around. You might be the lucky winner. Right. So I'm going to we've kind of formalized this presentation today, and hopefully will help us as we get started. So the question is, should I pay off my mortgage or should I invest? Of course, we need to keep in mind that eliminating debt and investing for the future, they're both important goals, right, Seth?
Yeah, they definitely are. What's the old adage, a penny saved is a penny earned?
Well, I think that's right. And of course, the question is, what should come first? Should we pay off our mortgage first? Should we invest our money first? Is it a hybrid approach? Should we do both at the same time? I think that's a fair question, don't you think?
Yeah, it definitely is.
So let's dive into this for a second. So I think we need to begin with understanding loan interest. Of course, there's many different variations, many different types of loans that a person could get, but for our purpose, because of time constraints, we're going to talk about what is really the difference between a 30-year loan and a 15-year loan. And we're going to assume for our purposes, the loan amount is $300,000. Seth, you want to just walk us through the slide a little bit?
First, Mike, where can I find a $300,000 home?
Well, that's for another 30-minute Thursday.
Just kidding. So the slide is pretty, it's pretty easy to walk through here. So a 30-year loan, I think we're assuming an interest rate of 3.99. And I think that was the national average as of what? As of today?
As of yesterday, actually.
As of yesterday, okay. So your monthly payment on that would be $1,430 and some change. And the total interest that you'd pay over 30 years is $214,000.
I wonder, Seth, if a lot of people realize that, how much interest that they really are paying on a 30-year loan.
I don't think we take it into account or can really comprehend right up front what we're getting into. Just like interest compounds in our investments, it compounds in our debts as well, right?
That's exactly right.
But we can see here, the second half of this screen, if we were to cut that and we took out a 15-year loan, the average right now is about 3.43. Your payment's higher. It's $2,134, but in the life of the loan, you'd pay $84,000 in interest, so significantly less.
I think that's amazing. By the way, I don't have it on the slide here, but I looked at the 10-year loan interest that you would pay. I think it's in the $50,000 of total interest you'd pay in a 10-year loan versus 15. That's not exact, but it's close. And the interest rate's a little bit less, but you can see that the differences just between those two the number of years that you have a loan. The interest that you would pay between the two is amazingly less if you have a 15-year loan.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely is.
I mean, I think I would say that 15-year loan, depending upon your situation, could be kind of a sweet spot. So, Seth, what's the takeaway from this? Maybe you could share this with us.
Yeah, so the takeaway, if you have the resources to pay it off in a shorter amount of time, you could potentially save thousands of interest, in the long run. Not all of us have that luxury. Not all of us can take on a 15-year loan because of the payment, or not all of us are able to apply more towards our payment because we already have a high payment, or maybe we're allocating our resources to other places. But if you can, obviously, it's a good idea to pay off as much as your loan, little amount of time as possible.
Of course, in some situations, it may be that the only way that you could qualify is, financially, is to qualify for a 30-year loan. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't add additional dollars to that loan and actually pay it off much shorter. And a lot of people do that. And that may be a very successful method for reducing the number of years that you have to pay down on that mortgage. And also, of course, as we've said, reduce the interest.
No, it's definitely true. And I know we're kind of constrained on time today, but for those of us that are thinking about paying down on our mortgage or applying extra towards our principal, just briefly, it's important that if you do want to do that, it's more beneficial that if you do it in the early years rather than in the later years. Because in the early years, you have a better shot at, actually tackling some of that principal. Because in the early years, if you look at an amortization schedule, it's a lot of interest that you're paying towards. We don't have time to get into a lot of that, but if you're going to do it, start early. Right, Mike?
Exactly right. So here's the question. So which loan would be better? Obviously, we're constrained by time, so we're just going to focus on a couple of things. Which loan would be better if you had a limited budget to invest additional dollars, right? Would we consider a 30-year loan, or would we consider a 15-year loan? And we put together a little bit of a comparison that I think will be kind of fun for our listeners, Seth, and really quite interesting. So the on the left-hand side, and let's just assume for a moment that the maximum monthly budget that you had to spend, the only dollars that you had to spend, which would be either for a mortgage payment or a mortgage payment and investing the balance, was $2,134. Isn't it interesting that that's exactly what the 15-year loan monthly payment would be? We chose that on purpose, right? We did, because we had to start somewhere. So Seth, let's talk about the 30-year loan and invest the balance for 30 years. And then I'll talk about the 15-year loan and the other side.
Yeah, so as you can see, we took that as our monthly budget. That's what we have to work with, $2,134. And if you were to take out a 30-year loan, I believe we're still working with $300,000. Your monthly payment would be $1,430. If you've got $2,134 to work with, we want to reinvest that balance, correct? And so if we reinvested $703.83 a month for 30 years, what's the future value of that? And we have some breakdowns here: 4%, 5%, and 7%. You can see at 4%, we're close to $500,000 there, $488,000. 5%, $585,000. 7%, you can see, the numbers, they get crazy on you, $858,000. If you were to put that money towards your investments every month for the life of your loan, and you were averaging 7%, you'd have close to $900,000 at the end of it.
That's amazing. And of course, you can already see that if you look at the bottom there, that the interest that you paid over that time period is $214,000. But that still is amazing. You had a 30-year loan. It wasn't ideal. You paid a lot of interest, but it might have been affordable if all you had was a couple thousand a month to work with, and you invested that $700,000. That's pretty significant.
No, it definitely is.
And of course, for our listeners, we're really not talking about where we're investing the money. We're trying to teach a principle. Obviously, if you have a 401k plan, you want to maximize the amount of money that you're putting in your 401k to get your company matched, because that's part of your comp plan. But the important thing that we're showing here is with that $700 a month for 30 years, those numbers look pretty significant.
And the numbers, like you said, Mike, they're all hypothetical. Everyone's going to be calling us up, say, give me the 7% one. That's what I want.
Of course. Yeah, it is all hypothetical for educational purposes. But the one on the right, if you did the 15-year loan and all you had was $2,134 a month to spend, what that would say to us is that during the first 15 years, we wouldn't have anything to invest, right? Because all we have is enough money to make that monthly mortgage payment. That's it. And so the future value at the end of the 15 years would be zero, because we're not investing anything. But then once your house is paid off or that loan is paid off, you've just freed up that $2,134 to now invest. But you don't have it for 30 years. You only have 15 years if we're going to make the comparison, right? First 15 years, you're making a monthly mortgage payment. You're not investing anything. which started in year 16 through 30. Now you've got the full amount, the loan's paid off, and you can see the future value at 4% is 525,000. Again, these are all hypothetical rates, 570,000 at 5 and 676,000 at 7%. But what's interesting is how much loan interest did you pay on a 15-year loan? Look at the bottom. 214,000 versus 84,000. So let's talk about the takeaway there. Seth, why don't you take that?
So, the takeaway here is wherever possible, consider investing at the same time that we're paying down our mortgage as much as we can. And I think, really every case is different, and you need to weigh your options, versus applying more towards your mortgage or investing for the future.
And I think for those of us who are in the accumulation stage of life, the main message, and we teach this all the time, is this is your time. If you're pre-retirement age, this is your time to put money away. Now we're showing this in this format, invest the balance or invest the balance of the money that you have available to you, comparing that to the mortgage payment that you're making. Well, you can see that the numbers in both cases are very significant. I think that's very, very important. So let's go to the third thing. We can already see that we're going over our time limit of 15 minutes, so maybe we can't get there, Seth. I don't know.
We're going to try.
But here's something that comes to us often. I just received an inheritance of 300,000. Why 300? Because it fits with our presentation, right?
Yeah, I like it.
And the question is, do I pay off the mortgage that has 15 years remaining? Again, we chose that. Or do I invest the money for the next 15 years? And remember, Seth just got done teaching us that most of the loan interest is in the first, and of course in a 30-year loan, is the first 15 years is where all the heavy interest is. And so what's better? Should I pay off the mortgage or do I invest the money? Seth, why don't you take us through this? And I think when we look at the column on the left, in most cases, we're probably talking about someone who's probably a little older. Why don't you take that one?
Yeah, so as we can see, let's say that our mortgage payment was $1,430, and we say, we're just going to pay off this mortgage because we need the income. Like Mike just mentioned, maybe this is for someone who's older, is on a very fixed income, and can really use the income. And so by paying that off, you increase your income by $1,430 each month. You save $63,000 in interest. You get that additional income because you don't have the mortgage payment anymore, and you can see the total benefits about $321,000.
And I could imagine, Seth, that there's a lot of people who are in retirement, and usually it's probably not unheard of that most inheritances come probably when we're a little older. Usually, our parents have lived a long time; they've lived a wonderful life, and they're trying to leave a gift to their loved ones. If you're in a situation where you're really kind of short on income and you've got a mortgage payment, having that mortgage paid off and freeing up another $1,400 could make all the difference to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So the column on the right, and again, it could be for an older person as well, but I think when I look at the column on the right, that might be for a person that is maybe more younger and receives an inheritance. Seth, why don't you walk us through that?
So if we were to not pay off the mortgage and invest $300,000 and just continue to make our payments, you can see that at 4, 5, and 7, your amount in a matter of 15 years, your $300,000 could grow to $546,000. $634,000 or $854,000. However, we do have to remember that we still have all that loan interest, the mortgage payments, the $257,000 that we have to pay down.
If you're a younger person and you're making really good income and you're saying, I can make my mortgage payments, no problem, but you haven't invested or saved a lot of money for the future, and this $300,000 came your way, and you say, you know what, I think we're going to invest this for our future because we really need to. Mm-hmm. And you could see that this could make a big difference later on down the road. So I think that's a very interesting slide. I hope that's helpful to a lot of you who are watching this. And of course, the takeaway is your individual circumstances are really going to determine which approach is best. And I think this key takeaway really is the key takeaway from this presentation, because everyone's situation, do I pay this off? Do I invest this? There's an order to things financially. We want to make certain that we have money in savings for emergencies, and we want to make sure that we're out of debt wherever we can, especially if we have consumer debt or credit card debt. We want to make certain that's all paid off. But your largest debt probably for most people is your mortgage. And so your individual circumstances will really help you understand which approach is going to be best for your situation.
No, I can think of, and you talked about at the beginning that maybe it's a hybrid approach. I can think of scenarios where maybe you get an inheritance and you invest it and you use that money, as you need to pay down your mortgage. There's a lot of different scenarios for different people, and it's something that needs to be examined on a case-by-case basis.
I think that's right. So this last slide we're going to show is another question that I get a lot. We just talked about an inheritance, but this is what I get. I've had a lot of people ask me this: should I pay off my mortgage with my retirement funds? Seth, what is one of the challenges with doing that? What do you think?
Well, one of the challenges that we see is typically retirement funds were pre-tax funds. They're in your traditional IRAs, your 401ks, your pre-tax 401ks. And so to say you're going to use those funds to pay off a mortgage usually comes at a cost, right? We have to consider the taxes.
Exactly right. So, we were talking earlier today. Let's suppose that a person has, just for round numbers, let's suppose someone already has $100,000 of taxable income. And so you've got maybe $500,000 in your retirement funds, and you say, could I use $300,000 of my $500,000 of my retirement funds and pay off my mortgage? Well, what ends up happening is, if you've got $100,000 of taxable income, and you take $300,000 out of your retirement funds, you just increase your taxable income by $300,000. So, for example, I ran some numbers earlier today. If you were trying to pay off your mortgage with your retirement funds and you were in a 20% tax bracket, you'd need $375,000 to pay off 300. The 75,000 would be the taxes that you would owe. But think of this: what if you were just in a 30% bracket? To pay off a $300,000 note, you'd need $428,500 approximately. You'd have to come up with that amount of money to pay off the taxes to net 300. And of course, if you're in a 40% bracket, it's even higher. I think it's closer to 500. So you can see that while you could do it, the things that you would need to consider: one is the taxes you would end up paying using retirement funds, but maybe even worse would be the fact is, if you need those retirement funds to live on, you might have really had a struggle with, you might have a struggle in the future with the amount of income you're going to be living on because you used it to pay off your mortgage. So, Seth, any key takeaways that we have here? I think our time's getting short, but what are your thoughts?
I think a lot of people want, just an answer, should I pay off my mortgage? Should I invest? And as is typical with many of these broadcasts, it depends. It depends on your personal, individual situation, and you need to examine all the options and see what's best for you. And we'd be happy to help you with that if you do need some guidance there.
Love that. Well, I think we're getting close to the time to say goodbye, and just to let you know that our next well, we've already discovered that we can't do this in 15 minutes, so we'll have to figure out a better way, maybe.
Maybe it's a 22-minute Thursday, right?
Yeah, we were talking a 12-minute Thursday, and I think that's maybe going to be impossible. But our next meeting, for all of you on the call, is going to be February 24th at 4:30, and we're going to be going through what we call the Checklist Challenge. It's an amazing document, and on the top of the document it says, can you check all 34 boxes with confidence? And it's talking about various areas of your financial life: income, medical and health insurance, financial planning, risk management, tax efficient strategies. And you'll actually get, after you fill this out, is a score. And so we'll find a creative way that we can review this in our next meeting, and maybe you'll learn a couple of things about your own financial situation.
Sounds great.
And our raffle is Luann S. That's who our raffle winner is, Luann. We're very excited. You've won a $25 gift card to your favorite restaurant, and we hope you enjoy it and are able to have a few people join with you. So with that, we'll sign off from Rancho Cucamonga, and hope you have a marvelous day, and we look forward to seeing each of you again on February 24th, and have a wonderful evening, everyone.